Well, today we're gonna work on something different. We're gonna be using just the palette knife, nothing else. Should be for a fun challenge. We're gonna be doing, and I know this is it's no surprise because you've already seen the thumbnail. We're gonna be doing a waterfall, but it's a beautiful tropical waterfall. And I think it's gonna look pretty decent. So I'm gonna just start, this is a little clear gel. And because we're palette knife painting, you can go ahead and mix clear gel in just about any time you want. It's really not gonna hurt anything and help the paint spread just a little better. Also, before we go too far with this, we should look at the paintings that you guys did of my last one, actually the last two paintings. Remember to share using the hashtag and the special page that I've got listed there on the screen. And then we can get your painting in the next video. That'll be fun. So now that we've got that in, I'm gonna just start adding some color, some green, some blue, just color. This is gonna be super random. Just color. Arbitrary color for the background. See, I'm not really worried about it because I'm just looking at trying to get just right in this area, something to work with. Once I get something there to work with, well then I've got the choices where I can take the palette, I scratch, you see, look at this, I can draw things out. This is my pencil, but can't do anything without paint on the canvas. So let's do that. We're just getting paint on the canvas. Greens, browns, just anything. Anything, as long as it's not too dark. See that? Excellent. This is gonna end up looking like trees and whatnot, but right now it's just abstract. So now, we're just gonna continue kind of working on this basic tone. See, I'm staying in the same tones. And I went ahead and stopped. I was just muddling with color and I stopped. And I kind of started to begin, can't speak, but that's okay. I started to begin sculpting my rocks. See that? And just sculpting kind of what maybe it's starting to look a little bit like a landscape, maybe not. But that's what I did. Now, I took this kind of soft gray that I was using up there and I moved it down here. Maybe that'll look like water. Maybe it won't. We'll see. Let's see over here. Maybe a little more of this. Maybe a little more. But you'll see, as we paint with the palette knife, it's so much looser than with a brush. And it's actually easier to go back and change things because look, you just lift it away and you're put down the next thing. It just doesn't matter. So it's in some ways a little more just kind of go with the flow than with a brush. Just different. It's not that big of a deal. Just sort of different. It looks good. I think before we go too far, I do want to continue with gray up here and maybe start placing some greens down in here. We'll keep it dark for the most part. See, kind of in this brownish green sort of color family. And we'll just roll with that. Yeah, that's good enough. You know what? Even up here, I think more blues. More blues, that'll indicate a better sense of distance. You're gonna use a little more paint. See, I'm already out of white. You're gonna use more paint when you do the palette knife painting. So just know that going in. If you're low on paint, just use a brush. It stretches a little further, doesn't it? Now we're gonna place in several rocks here. And these several rocks will help, I believe, to kind of create a better effect. A bit more depth in this area. This area is, very flat. I've been playing around, just adjusting things. You see, everything kind of looks a little different. But sometimes when you go and mess with things, they get better. Sometimes they get worse. Sometimes they get better. So you gotta be careful. You wish you wouldn't have messed with your painting, but sometimes you end up with better finished overall thing. So anyway. The other thing, I need to clean my palette. I think what I'm gonna do is stop and clean my palette and then just put my paint down again and mix everything up together as one gray color. Just that way, at least I've got the palette space to work and I won't have wasted that paint. But there you go. It takes a lot of paint to do these palette knife paintings. Great, oh, a little red in there. Don't do too much red. Red is a foreground color, but this is the foreground, so I guess it'll be okay. I need some white as well. But tell you what, because we want several cliffs, or they're not cliffs, but you know what I mean, like little drop-off things. We get slightly, look at this green. See, I've been saving up my green, just mushing things together, saving that green. I like that. And it's kind of a mossy gray green. And look, I can make kind of a little ridge or a shelf here. Yeah, is that perfect? No, but it's kind of interesting. And again, these rocks, we're gonna have a lot of rocks. Oh, we're gonna have a lot of rocks. We're to the point in the painting, I believe I would stop putting clear, if you're still putting clear gel in with your colors, I believe I would stop. At this point, you don't want it to get too slippery, but if it does happen, you could certainly just scrape it off, not wipe it off, but scrape it off. You know, and we may need to scrape some of this off before we highlight the water. You know, it may be too much, but look what happens when you take your palette knife and you drag it across like this. See that? You can take that paint off without removing the colors, just taking that top layer off, and the bottom layer should be stained. And it works. Excellent. Sometimes if you work your colors in, see I'm working it and working it and working it in, trying to stain the canvas. That's important. If you put it on like that, and then you think, well, underneath that, no, it's underneath it's going to be whatever it was. So work that color in if you want it to be stained on the canvas. Work it in. Keep working it. Keep working it. That's the secret there. Oh, that's pretty though to me. Oh yeah, I think we can work with this. I really do. I like this. Big rocks there. Lots of rocks, lots of rocks. It's kind of the edge of the river there. Well, now I'm going to work at getting some highlight, not a ton, but just some, to these background trees. We're finally moving on to something that's not just blocking in a bunch of dark color, so that's nice. But I'm going to kind of, what technique? Just kind of bouncing the knife along, you know, just bouncing it along, trying to make it random. Trying to make it random. Yep, that's it. Because what we'll do is, in fact, we'll do it right now. We'll wipe that knife off so there's nothing, and half of palette knife painting, I would say, is not so much what you're putting on, as how you're moving the paint once it's on the canvas. But now that we do have something there to work with, we use just the small edge. See, there's the big and the small edge of the knife. And we use that small edge now to form little shapes. You can't just, it's a palette knife painting. Sometimes we think, and I get caught doing this too, sometimes we think it's just going to flow out of the palette knife and that's just the way it is. But it's not. You're going to need to form it and move it and put it right where you want it to be. Just make them work for you. Round them off. See that? Round those shapes off. That's what I mean by making it work. I want those shapes to be rounded. So it looks like little clumps of trees back there. This isn't random or arbitrary in any way, but it's more kind of planned out and mapped out with these. I'm looking at these little shapes, these little clumps. See that? It's not just random. And that's going to help you a lot when you palette knife paint. It'll be fun to see your version. This is going to be really cool. And let me tell you what, you don't have to do it with a palette knife. Feel free to do it with a brush or anything that you like. I don't know what else you would use, but do it any way you want. And I still want to see your version of this scenery. It'll be really exciting. Look at this. That, to me, works. Now, our light source is actually going to be coming kind of down from the middle. You can see where it's bright. We'll continue that through the painting, but it's fairly misty here. There's not a lot of light happening. There, that works. I like that. Darker up here, maybe just a couple more little bits, not too much up here. Well, now I've got some blue and white, and I'm gonna just scoop up a roll of blue and white. And let's see, it's finally time to go ahead and get this waterfall in. I've went ahead and scraped it away. See that? I scraped it away. That all helps to sketch it in, but more importantly, it removes that paint. All right, here we go. Here we go. Now, your guess is as good as mine how this is gonna turn out. I'm not gonna be discouraged if we have to try again. I'll let you know how all that goes, but let's see if we can get it in right the first time. Let's see what I'm wondering. Oh, there we go. Let me just paint instead of talk. Okay, that looks pretty decent. Wipe your palette knife off, reload it. I'm actually pressing down fairly hard. I like that. Get a little bit more. Good. Hey, I want this to not be chunky though. So I'm gonna come back and I'm going to blend it like so. Yeah, there, that works. Doesn't have to be perfect. I don't do a lot of palette knife waterfalls. So it's been a long time, so I didn't know for sure. But I'm gonna say that it's gonna be just fine. Okay, just like anything, you touch it a second time and it'll just go right away. So I got a little more white paint and I'm gonna just tint it with a little blue so it's mostly white this time. That one was mostly blue, this one's mostly white. And what I'd like to do is, I'd like to get just a little bit more, I'm using the small edge of the knife, I'd like to get just a little bit more highlight here. Should be good. Not too much to where it's kind of weird, but I do want just a little more. Just a little more. So I'm going to be maybe a little bit more delicate with it. Just try to get something that's, oh, that's pretty good. Remember, you touch it a couple times, it gets darker. First couple strokes, pretty good. Pretty bright. Oh, wow. Is that better? I think it is better. Not that it was bad before. This is an optional step, but I do like it. I think it looks good for what it is. This is a fun challenge, actually. I'm really enjoying doing a waterfall palette knife because it's a challenge. It's definitely a challenge. It's fun. It's fun to see what you can do that you're not really supposed to be able to do, if you know what I mean. They're taking a tool that is not supposed to do this and you're doing this anyways. That's fun. Palette knife paintings can teach you a lot about color, shape, and contrast that you would not ordinarily learn. And it's because you're paying more attention. With a brush, sometimes you close your eyes and you can just do it. But with the palette knife, more often than not, you gotta kind of make it work. At least when you're doing something like soft blending of color. So it's not really designed, it's not designed for soft blending of colors. It's designed for putting layers of paint. You know, sharp layers on top of layers. That's what it works better for, especially this design here. But when you work with it, oh, you can blend it. You can blend it, make it look so pretty. Well, now it's time to highlight the water down here. You can just see I'm running my blue and white. So there it is right there, kind of a darker blue and white. I'm running it around these rocks as best I can. If I hit a rock, it's not gonna make any difference because I've got to highlight and whatnot, so it's not like we're finished. But look at this, isn't this neat? It's some action going there. I will say, I think that if you allow it to sort of, see how it has some texture there. If you allow it to have a little less texture by pressing a little more firmly with the knife, I actually think you get a better look. Wipe the palette knife each and every time you reload. Otherwise, bad things happen. There we go. That looks good. And it doesn't have to be perfect. You know, don't worry about getting it perfect. We want to see some of the stuff in between, actually. That's what makes it look so good. In fact, what I believe I'm going to do is probably get back in here and just put a little more brown. You know, we can see just some of the land underneath the water. But look at that. We'll just create little ripples here. A little less down here, I'd say. It just makes it look like fast-moving water. Well, now we're going to create some ferns back here. This is hopefully going to look like ferns and not palm trees. But honestly, if somebody comes in, oh, that looks like a little palm tree or something, that's fine too. My intention is a fern, but you know how that goes. So I'm not worried about it either way. This is a palette knife painting. This is so abstract anyways that it is just going to look how it looks. But let's go ahead and get us just the indication of see that, just a few little ferns. Good enough. Now, how bright you want to make this is up to you. Maybe make the ones kind of on top a little brighter. Leave most of them kind of in shade, I would say. Something like that. Looks pretty good. Yeah, pretty fern-like. I mean, a fern is very similar in shape, isn't it? To a palm tree. Yeah, it looks good. Maybe a little more twirly. See, a little less straight, maybe a little more curly. Good, good, good. Remember, this is not the highlight. This is just the beginning stages. Yeah. Hey, I like that. Oh, wow, that looks good. That looks good. Again, we're just starting. We're just starting. It's going to take a little bit here to get this looking like a whole bank of these things. See, I want those ferns growing up on the bank. I think it'd be interesting. I'm just imagining, see, I'm just in my mind, some rocks here. We haven't really sculpted them yet, but I'm imagining these rocks here. I think that looks good. A little, whoa! Stuff happens. Wow. That is about the worst I've ever messed up a painting, but watch this. Watch this. In just no time at all. I've been in classes where we've dumped a painting over, paint side down on the carpet. It was fine. You couldn't even tell. But I've never messed a painting up quite that bad. There we go. All better. There, and you thought the whole painting was ruined. I saw you gasping. It's okay. It's okay. We're not going to ruin it so bad you can't fix it. Good. Look at that. It's better than it was before. I like that. I like that. And now we've got a story. Remember that one time I slid the palette right through my painting? There you go. All right, so we'll keep on going. What I was trying to do is I was trying to show you adding blue and trying to make this a little more shadowy. I like that. That's interesting. And then we'll just add those elements here, the shadowy elements here to the other side. Ooh, that's nice. So you kind of use, remember I said that just a little bit ago, was use the paint on the canvas versus trying to always load it up on the knife and paint with the knife. Now, one of the last things I'm going to do is create some foreground elements. A little scary maybe, but that's okay. There's nothing that can happen up here that we can't somehow fix. But what I'm going to do is, say I just put down that line, and especially out here where it counts. So let's face it, it counts here. I'm going to then kind of do my best to pull it like this. A little bit on the other side as well. Good, and this is just the dark part. We'll probably want to put some highlight, although it is kind of a backlit. I don't even know what the highlight. Here, let's do the highlight right here, right now, while I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking just like something like that. You know, I'm kind of making that part up as I go along. Sometimes I sit and I'll plan out, okay, where's my light source? But not in here. I'm kind of just going with it and hoping it works out, which is, it will. It will. There. Good. See, that just makes it, it makes it nice. It makes a difference. It brings out a little interesting character in that painting. And again, ferns or palm fronds or tropical plants, it doesn't matter. This is just strokes of color with a palette knife. It's whatever your viewer wants it to be. That's what it is. More now today, you know, because of what we're doing, how we're doing it than normal. But even normally, that's how that would go. So that one worked out really pretty good, pretty decent, as I can't choose which word to say. Pretty good. Let's do another just like it. Great. I like them to have kind of that rounded bit there. That looks good. I'll just play around. Look at that. I'm using that green that I saved when I cleaned my palette. Maybe we got one. Yeah, I imagine there's a lot of rock around like this. You know, this is kind of, we're sitting in the canyon. I hope there's not a flash flood coming, that sort of a thing. There we go. All the way out across that waterfall. Yes, you can do that. Because what that does is it pushes that waterfall back. Now, just to wrap it up, I think it would be really cool just to add a little red or purple here to represent, let me grab my palette, to represent some jungle flowers. I don't have much paint left. That's good, there wasn't a lot of waste, was there? But there's some red. Just toss that in, like I said, just jungle flowers. Again, impressionistic, because that's kind of the theme of the painting. It's kind of what we're going with, but just some color. That really is so necessary. Not too far back, because very quickly you'll lose all that beautiful depth. It may look too close. So maybe even that one, I'll kind of muddle that a little there, but at least in the foreground, it's kind of pretty. So there you have it. Kind of just, to me, finishes off the painting. Well, that about wraps it up for this palette knife painting. This is a good exercise, a good lesson in loosening up a bit and definitely using your broad shapes to create a general effect instead of painting everything in just perfectly. Don't forget to check out our website, our DVDs, and our brush line. Thanks for watching. Well, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Remember to subscribe if you're not already, and click the like button. That helps me out a lot. Stick around, watch a couple more videos, and stay inspired.